All right, we're back, and now it is my pleasure. We've had an opportunity. Michael Owen is here with me. Sorry, I should get your name out there. We've been partnering up a lot lately talking about cybersecurity, but I know, and you mentioned it briefly in those sessions, that one of your other passions is talking about room poaching. And so that's why we've got Michael on here today. Tell us a little bit, though, for anybody who might not be familiar with you and what you do, just get a little bit about who you are and what you do in this here industry of ours.
Well, my company is Event Genuity. We entertainment. I do entertainment for corporate and private events and that sort of thing, and meetings and events strategy. We no longer manage meetings, but that's what we do. And I get voluntold to join a variety of committees that I didn't know I got involved with. So I got involved 8 or 9 years ago with what was then the Convention Industry Council, Apex Group, now Events Industry Council, Industry Insights. And among the things that we were working on, went back several years, was room block poaching, an issue that had been out there and been prevalent in the industry for many years. And as we were doing research, we discovered that the information that was out there, the articles that were available, were all anecdotal. We didn't really understand how people were affected, who was affected, and that. So we convened a summit here in Las Vegas with all the different people around the table. And this was probably 4 or 5 years ago. We've done ongoing research, and beginning last year in 2018, we did another survey that also asked the question, are there any other areas in which you're being affected from poaching? We were hearing, again, anecdotal information, but we wanted to dig a bit deeper, and we found that out. And then just this spring, did a survey, or we're actually working on it with a group of International Association of Exhibitions and Events, Society of International. Hi.
Hello.
So let me do this, and then
Yeah.
So Society of Independent Show Organizers, and under the auspices of the Events Industry Council. There's a huge issue around attendee list poaching. Now, there are a number of others, but maybe we can get into that as we talk further.
Yeah, and so we're being joined by Mariela with the IC as well, who is also one of our co-conspirators when it comes to talking about cybersecurity. And so we're happy. As a reminder, we are live here at IMEX, and so people get pulled this way and that way, and it's actually really hard to navigate the floor without stopping and talking to just about every person. So thank you for joining us. We're glad we could have you come on. Why don't you tell everybody a little bit about what you do with EIC?
Absolutely. So my name is Mariela McIlwraith. I serve as the Director of Industry Advancement with the Events Industry Council. So I look after our sustainability initiative, as well as helping with some of the projects that Michael was mentioning. So looking at some of the research that we're doing around industry insights, looking at cybersecurity, looking at poaching, looking at a number of things. We're also going to be looking at updating a lot of the documents that are used on a regular basis by event professionals.
And what a lot of people may not know, I'm asked all the time, whatever happened to the Apex Group? This is the Apex Group is the foundation. Apex being the Accepted Practices Exchange, which was an effort by thousands, I guess, of meeting planners, a volunteer in that for several years ago, and developing tools for the industry. And we've evolved into a think tank and a variety of other things, still preciously taking care of all the information and updating the information that came from Apex. But the poaching thing is nuts. These guys are bad guys. They, if you think about how they work, they're kind of 3 buckets. There's one that's competition, right? If you're thinking about hotels, there's another bucket that's clearly illegal, which is tougher, and then they're all pretty much unethical. So the challenge is how do you get that done? Thankfully, there is. I just found this out a couple of weeks ago. In fact, when I was down with your guys down in Tucson, that for the 3rd Congress in a row, we have a bill before both Congresses, before the Senate and the U.S. Congress, called the Stop Online Bookings Act. Okay, it has just come back out, I heard. It was begun by...
If at first you don't succeed, try.
Please pass one bill. Are you listening, Congress? Please pass one bill.
And they do, yes.
Yeah, so the the idea is if this behavior, and it affects actually the listservs and all the other things that we'll be talking, the list poaching and all the other things we'll be talking about. If these things can clearly be designed as consumer fraud, now we have teeth to those cease and desist letters. So it's really important. If anybody's interested in advocacy and you want to look those up, it's a good idea to talk to your congressman and say, be aware that this is there, and if you're not supporting it, get on board.
Marielle, maybe you can expand a little bit about exactly what we're talking about when we're talking about room poaching, because like you said, there's a couple different kinds and buckets. Can you kind of elaborate a little bit about some of the different varieties that are there?
Absolutely. It's really any type of practice that is diverting individuals from staying in official room blocks. And as Michael pointed out, some of it is legitimate. I mean, if you have a hotel in a destination that wants to promote themselves, they should be. That's their part of having an open marketplace. However, there are also some that are being very deceptive in the way that they are representing themselves as being potentially an official room block when they're not. And there are situations where there is, outright credit card fraud, where people are showing up at the hotel thinking that they have a reservation. They don't, and the hotel is sold out. Their credit card has been charged. So these are really very concerning situations. It also poses a real challenge for front office operations. So here you are, the hotel, at our hearts, we're about hospitality, and the last thing you want to do when somebody shows up at the front desk is be the one to tell them, "I'm sorry, we don't have a room for you. Your credit card has been charged, it sounds like, and you're out of luck because we can't help you." So these, and meanwhile, it's a major check-in day, and they're like, there's a lineup out the door. So thinking about how we can help with that is really important. And so we're the toolkits that we have on our website are really looking at a number of different aspects to poaching. So what can you do to help potentially prevent it from happening, and what you can do to mitigate it if it happens?
Yeah, and that's actually from a consumer standpoint and from an event presenter standpoint. There is we've had time to actually have quite a bit of information on the Events Industry Council. That's the eventscouncil.org, is that correct? Yep. Website around room block poaching. We are working now, we're right in the midst of working with those two organizations, CISO and IAEE, on poaching beyond room blocks. And it starts with, in the exhibition industry, they're getting killed with attendee list. I remember I tell the story about being at an MPI conference, and ended on Tuesday, and I got home, and on Friday I got a solicitation for a list, and it was quite a bargain because it was half off the $1,300 price. I could get it for $650, and they had I think it was 37 or 4,000 attendees, which was weird because I think they had 27 or 25 at the conference.
Well, that's a really good deal then.
That's a great deal because they found attendees that MPI didn't know they
exist. Right. Well, and I think that's why some of this has evolved out of, or is related to the cybersecurity conversation, is that, again, it's data related. It's having to do with these lists being purchased and sold. Where is that information coming from? Where did that list, whether it was legitimate or not, and even if it had some names that were accurate, that had to come from somewhere?
Well, it started because we used to list everybody's name on every website that we were coming.
Yeah.
The challenge that we have now, that no longer really applies to attendees as much as it does exhibitors. Exhibitors are the ones that are hardest hit with this. But if you're going to attend a conference and your purpose to go there is to do some business and meet or work with an existing attendee or vendor, you want to know who's there. So how do you protect that? That's the hard question, is how do we make the information that is available to also keep it safe from people who don't deserve to have it.
So back to the room poaching, how, whose responsibility is this? I mean, so is it the planner side? Is it the attendee side? A little bit of both?
It's everybody. It's we all have to take a responsibility. The planner side is certainly a big part of it. We know that educating your attendees and your prospective attendees that there's a risk out there is a key part. They can also do a lot of good by integrating registration and housing reservation systems. That really helps to circumvent going in other routes. But the reality is that planners don't decide where attendees stay. Unless you're talking about a corporate event that is covering costs, people make decisions themselves about where they're going to be booking. And so they're going to be going online, doing their research, and they're going to be responding to emails that show up in their inboxes. So an awareness campaign is really critical. We're also going to need to be aware of the importance of privacy regulations. And in the past, a lot of times people would do room block audits. So share your attendee list with your hotel, and they'll share their list back of who stayed. And this type of information is confidential information. So if you're going to be sharing that with a hotel, you need to have permission in advance, and making sure that people are aware of how that information is used. It's part of your privacy policy, and everyone is fully aware. And you need to know how that data is going to be protected once it reaches other parties.
How do we do better as an industry of communicating not only the importance of this, but just or data in general, data protection and privacy in general? Again, that's all kind of looping back into cybersecurity and things like that. How do we as an industry start to get that word out that we need to start taking that responsibility?
Well, it all, if you think about it, as we talk about a variety of issues amongst ourselves and presenting in that it all stems from the lack of data privacy, or not taking the care and feeding in that. And the scary thing, I'll leave you with one scary thing, is that it's also, we're now seeing poaching in exhibitor services, sponsorship, audiovisual. So, and year over year, we did an 18 survey, then we did a 19 survey, and it's growing.
Yeah.
In every category. And this is the first year that we asked about sponsorship, and it's something that we want to explore a little bit further because we don't have information of how that is manifesting itself. We've heard one anecdote, because we know that the plural of anecdote is not evidence, but the anecdote that we've been hearing about is are billboards being sold on buildings across the street from your venue. Is that legitimate? Is it not legitimate? It's one of those things that we're going to need to be really attentive to. I'm also concerned about the rise of fake conferences. That is another aspect.
Entirely fake events.
Entirely fake events. And my favorite story of that is somebody who submitted a proposal for a paper to be presented using autocomplete with their phone. Just entered one keyword and then just hit autocomplete, and you know what? It was accepted. So the peer review system is a little concerning on that.
Well, we've barely scratched the surface, but hopefully we've given some folks things to think about. Certainly, where can they find out more about these the studies that have already been done, the previous ones, and find out more about what we can do?
Our website, eventscouncil.org, has this information on it. The easiest way to find it on our website is go to our glossary and look at poaching or piracy, and it'll take you to all the resources, and you'll get the definition right off the bat. It's a great resource for all sorts of information on the industry.
Fantastic. Well, Michael, Mariela, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you all, and we'll be back in just a few moments with our next guest.
Thank you.